Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new chapter of FinFluenced by Technisys. We have today the opportunity to talk with Gearoid Power, co-founder and CEO of Antuar. Well, Gearoid, tell us about Antuar and your role in the company.
Hi, Herman. Thanks for having me here. So Antuar is a branch-focused software company. We've been around delivering software as a group of people since before 2000 and delivering all projects for branches all around the world. And about 2012 or thereabouts, we started to come together and say that we could do it ourselves better, faster, and cheaper. And we created our own product company to implement that. So here we are, nearly 10 years later, and we are still delivering, still in place with clients in the US, South America, and in Europe as well. My role is CEO, but I really look at myself doing two different things. I'm both a product and a company manager. I keep an eye on what's going on strategically within the market and make sure that our products and the direction of the company is quite aligned with that. But as I said, our focus is quite narrow in that it's branch channel for financial institutions.
How have you seen the industry evolve in the past 5 years, and how has the role of the branch evolved in that time?
Yeah, it's obviously what we're interested in. I think that the way to consider it is I think of the interest in branches as like a pendulum. And I think that from around the 2000 mark, people who have heard me talk about this before, is that the pendulum has swung away from branches. Banks and industry have pushed everything online. The .com was there, and it was going to be cheaper to put everything online. So there was little or no investment in branches, as they were looked at and still are the more expensive channel for customers to adhere to. But I think that what has happened in the last maybe 5 to 7 years is that the realization has come to pass that, well, actually branches are an important part of a bank's offering. So a lot more innovation has come into branches in the last 5 or 6 years as companies like ourselves or hardware providers focus on developing new applications, new hardware, new solutions for the branch. And that pendulum has started to swing back more rapidly towards the branch world. The reality of it is that the branch of 20 odd years ago, is a completely different entity than what the branch could be for today. It used to be transaction-based branch banking. That was what was there. Now it's a little bit more. It's a combination of the transactions for sure, but that's obviously become a lesser part of it. It's an important and critical part of it, but not as important as servicing and sales and assisting with the customers. So, with that in mind, you mentioned the combination of the physical space and the digital world. A term that I use is, either you've heard of bricks and clicks, it's bricks and flicks, or it's phygital space, where it's a combination of what's going on in the digital world and supported by what's in the physical world, and vice versa. It's not a go to the branch or do everything online. It's a combination. So from a technology point of view, the technology that supports the branch has to be a bit more omni-channel, it has to be a bit more real-time, and for sure, they're the things that are driving the interaction and the human element in the branch. What we're seeing is fintechs coming into that space more. Fintechs are really starting to take more of a grip on the world, and I think that those fintechs are coming up with innovative ideas, whether it's simple things like biometric authentication or 360-degree view of the customer and their financial planning, being able to start a transaction on your mobile, do a little bit more on your tablet, and then come into a branch to finish it. They're all things that you're starting to see more of. And I think that with that, the customers have become more sophisticated. I mean, not everybody is overly banked, but the customers are more sophisticated, which means that their expectations are higher. They want that kind of Apple or Amazon experience when they go into the branch and demand it. And that's impacting how the branches are being delivered.
What do you think actually what the customers want or need from their branches?
I think the reality of it is that you have a situation where there is no such thing as the cookie cutter branch, right? That you really have to tailor the branch experience to a number of different things: your location, who you're targeting, demographics, and the type of customer, retail or commercial. I read an interesting article, I think it might have been by somebody from Glory, that said that the branches are an expensive way of advertising. It's true. I do think, though, that once you go in, you have to have the right people. It is no good to be met with a wall of machines. I think that the branch, you need to have that human element. You need to have that somebody that will look at you in the eye and take care of your problem for you. I mean, that's really what you're going to a branch for. I've got a problem to solve. I've got a transaction to do. I need somebody to help me through it. And you want to be taken by the hand and felt, yeah, you're a valued member or a valued customer of this financial institution. And that warmth then continues. The reality of it is people buy from people, right? You don't necessarily buy from things online. And that is something that's unique within the branch, okay? Even if you're not doing a cash transaction, again, which might be unique within the branch compared to the other channels like your online or your mobile, but you're reaching out and can touch the customers. You can touch the employee who is there to help you through a challenging time. Most of the time when you're going into a branch, it's because you're trying to do something a little bit more complicated than you can do on your mobile phone or on your desktop. And that means that you want advice. You want to be given a warm, fuzzy feeling that the person you're talking to is interested in you, knows their stuff, knows what the product is that you're trying to buy. It could be a mortgage, it could be a insurance, it could be anything. And that's really where you're using the branch as a differentiator to maybe some of the completely online offerings that are out there. And they all have their place. Again, it depends on the demographics and it depends on the people you're going for. But certainly if you get a good experience in a shop, you tell other people about it, that builds confidence, and that gets you to having sticky customers and growing your customer base. So yeah. I think it's a critical part to the whole experience.
How can technology help facilitate that interaction with the customer at the branch or in their branch experience?
I think the reality of it is in a branch, there may be 3 or 4 different pillars to stand on. One is obviously that the institution has good products, good financial products, right? So whether that's a deposit account or a savings account or a college fund or whatever, credit cards. So that's kind of key. If you don't have good products, it doesn't matter. It's like putting lipstick on a pig, right? That's no good for you. The second thing I think is critical there are the systems, and maybe we can talk about that in a second. And the third is the people. Again, if the people don't have good products to sell or have good systems to support them in their role, it's going to be a very difficult thing for them to give that warm feeling that you're talking about. In terms of the systems, I think we've moved on. We're moving away from this siloed approach of mammoth core systems running on mainframes. And this is where technology comes in, and we're able to more easily see next best product offerings. What is going on within your institution in terms of personal finance, advisory, dashboards, and from all of those things to be available not just to the customer but to the branch staff makes their life easier. One thing that I'm seeing a large trend on now is to automate some of the financial transactions, at least the simpler ones, so that you can automate doing your deposits, your withdrawals, your cashing of check. And what's happening there is that you're giving control to the customer in their transactions, and you're allowing the time that is spent with the branch staff to be a higher value, higher touch points, and more engaging. So that, as one client we used to say, is that the teller isn't, the customer isn't talking to the top of the teller's head as they're just counting cash. Let the customer do the cash transaction if they need, and then you're repurposing that staff time to higher value, better value transactions. And I think that's where the technology comes into play. And again, between that and omni-channel, being able to stage transactions, all of those things with technology become much more frictionless to be able to do the simpler things for the customer. And that's where technology helps. When you extend that further, how many times have you gone into a bank and had to fill in a form for an application previously, even though you've been with the bank for 10 years? I mean, the first question you ask is, well, do you not know who I am? And if they don't know who you are, there's a problem. Technology is getting that omni-channel type of thing a bit more correct, a bit more personalized. And that's where, the branch and technology helps in building that relationship, giving confidence, and potentially increasing the maybe products per household, if you want to use that as a metric, because of that stickiness and that relationship.
Which are the banks that do you think are leading the way in branch innovation?
Yeah, I mean, all of those are good points. Metro Bank in the UK was a relatively new bank, and they put focus on branches. I mean, the owner of the bank was a dog lover, so all of the branches had little drinking pools for dogs to come at, because they were making the customers come to their branches, right? Innovation and ideas around that don't necessarily have to be technological, and they don't necessarily have to be innovating for the sake of innovating. If you think of Capital One, why were they in the news over the years? They were an online only provider, yet they saw the value in physical presence, right? And they opened their coffee shops and they opened different things around that. So you kind of go, well, okay, that's, even though they were breaking away from the mold and becoming an online only type bank, they saw value and were able to adjust their overall model to facilitate that and bring more customers in. I don't think they got an awful lot of customers just because of free or cheap coffee, but because there was proximity. Another way of looking at things is that Handelsbanken, the German bank in the UK, was one of the largest growing, fastest growing banks for a number of years because they were branch centric. All of the decisions on loans and things like that happened at the branch rather than having to go to head office or go central. So they maintained a relationship with the people. And again, not necessarily innovation, but just applying ideas in the market now that allowed them grow. And you can say it was innovative because they did something slightly different, where all other banks were centralizing everything. So, we've worked with a credit union in the States, America First Credit Union, that built out a lab and tested technology with their membership and got their opinion before they pushed it out to their branches. So they're involving their membership to say, hey, this is what we think we're going, and they're bringing the customer on the journey rather than forcing the customer or the member on the journey to a way of doing it. So there are a number of banks out there that are trying different things. And I think that one of the things that I like about Citi and Bank of America is that they're not doing that one size fits all branch. They're having almost the point where they can get to a small space, 100 square feet maybe, and have an automated branch almost that they can lift in on a truck and deploy. So there are a lot of things like that that I think you can pick from, how to manipulate branches and spaces to deliver the best and most cost-effective way of doing things. So there are an awful lot of branches and banks and financial institutions doing things. I think really what has to happen is that you've got to figure out, what's the best strategy for you. And there is no one-size-fits-all strategy, but your strategy needs to come down to who you're going after, where you are, and what you're delivering. And then you need to fit your branches around that. And that's key.
What would be your number one piece of advice for banking looking to enhance their in-branch banking experience? And, what's going to be for them the next step for branches?
Yeah, I think branches are an expensive channel. There's not a lot of value to be had in them, but it does make sense that it's all part of the higher strategy from the bank. A bank should have a good idea of their strategy. That informs the channel strategy, that informs the branch strategy. If you don't have that, then you'll be trying to invest in a branch functionality, branch offering that you'll be running up against other competition, other budgets for. And then ultimately in 2 or 3 years' time, you might have to throw it all out. So you need to make sure that you're aligned in the branches to the overall strategy or the channel strategy and the overall strategy within the bank. And then I think, one of the things that is key on the financial arena at the moment is that fintechs are coming out of the place everywhere, right? And what's really good about a fintech is that they're specialized in what they do. They don't try and boil the ocean. They know that they've got a kettle and that's all that they have to boil. And as a result, they can help deliver things much quicker, much faster. So banks, I think, need to get on board with the fact that, their strategy has to be correct. The partnering that they do and the selection has to be correct. And I think that banks ultimately need to sort of change their mindset. They should be IT companies with a banking focus rather than banks that happens to do a little bit of IT. And that strategy evolves the back-end systems that are needed. And why is that important is that if they don't embrace that, they will probably not be agile enough to pivot their strategy, change their strategy, and competitors that are born on the cloud, again, IT companies born on the cloud, delivering banking services like the fintechs, can change much quicker. They have lower cost base, they don't have the legacy. And if you're not in that competition, you're going to be left behind. So all of those things need to be informing what you're going to do in the branch. So I think you need to do a top-down approach rather than necessarily putting in a new fix in a branch to fix a problem that's there now, because that problem may not be there in a year's time. So I think it's more so about having the vision to inform what you need to do in the branch rather than what's the best thing to do for a branch, and working top down rather.
The ecosystem play is critical for the financial service industry, for the those who play in that space, like Antuar and Technisys, and well, that's what we are trying to achieve here is an alliance where each of us is expert in our own in our own space.
I think that's really where the marriage between the two companies really takes place, and why is that we're not trying to take over everything. We're focused on our own spaces, and for sure we're branch, but we're designed to be agnostic to the back end. To us, that should just be a black box. You guys are a bit of that black box, and able to plug in other, best of breed solutions into that. And therefore, the clients get to that point of being able to, tailor the solution to their needs and getting best of breed if that's their focus, but just getting, out of the box solutions if it's not. And you guys facilitate plugging all of that in together. And that's where I think that, the combination of the two kind of is quite good. We're focused in our space, and we bring an awful lot to that. And then you guys are helping out the institutions with their strategy and their overall IT. And we're just plugging into that and making life easier.
Great, Gearoid. It was a great pleasure having you today here with us, talking to our audience and learning more about the future of the branches and this phygital space. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me here, man. I'll talk to you again soon.